Hi, my name is Chris Parkhurst. I'm a documentary filmmaker, and I'm also the host of the Documentary Life podcast, a show that spans 140 episodes, has been downloaded in over 135 countries, and I've been producing for about 5 years. I decided to put each and every episode up here onto YouTube to sort of expand the audience, and as we say in the show, maybe inspire and inform some more doc filmmakers, hopefully like yourself. In the episodes, you may find some older, maybe outdated URLs, in particular any of the documentary filmmaking courses that we do offer online. If you have any questions about the URLs, simply look in the show notes on this page, here on this YouTube page, and that'll be able to take you where you need to go to. Other than that, I hope you enjoy the show, and it's great to have another listener to the Documentary Life. Have a great day. Microphone check, 1, 2, 3. City, sibilance. Levels check, good, sounds good. 1, 2, 3, rolling and...
I didn't really fully grasp the kind of extent of it till probably around March, like when it really hit. We're still planning for the cinema screenings, but until March, when a lot of people got very, very sick, and just the magnitude of it, just like we just can't do this. You can't be a maverick with people's health. You can't just go in there and we want to keep people safe. We want to have a fun event. As part of me wanted me just to COVID, you're not the boss of me. Go in there, hit it out of the park, sell a lot of sessions, but I can't do that with people's health.
Even up to the very last day, we were number one in audience award voting. We got all of these amazing comments from people. We were asked to be on, podcast and radio, and it was exactly what we wanted. So it worked for us. I don't say online film festivals or virtual festivals are for everyone, but for sure it worked for us for this film. So I think that's one of the questions people have to ask themselves.
Hello and welcome to the Documentary Life. This is a show that sets out to inspire and inform you on how to best live and lead your own documentary life. I am your host, Chris G. Parkhurst, and this is episode number 134, and it is brought to you by Barong Films, proud creators of documentary film and the Documentary Life podcast. 3 years ago, we first had Lyndon Stone onto the program. Listeners of the show will know Lyndon from previous episodes. He is the founder and festival director of the Melbourne Documentary Film Festival, commonly referred to as MDFF here on the show. At the time of that first special, way back in episodes 28 and 29, MDFF was only in its second year and still finding its footing in the documentary film festival world. Since then, MDFF has steadily become one of the more recognizable names in doc festivals, and certainly one of the go-to festivals now in Oceania. At the time, we ran a 2-episode special devoted entirely to the topic of film festivals for the documentary filmmaker. We took kind of a double-pronged approach by splitting the episodes into a discussion with Lyndon, effectively the festival's director, followed by a discussion with a filmmaker who was showing their film at MDFF that year. And we've had the joy of reconnecting every year since that time with both Lyndon and a filmmaker or two. I can honestly say that these episodes, kind of listened together, can really start to give the documentary filmmaker a fuller, more complex, more honest look at the hows, the whats, the whys of the documentary film festival, again, from the point of view of its director and the documentary filmmaker. So it's now July again, and we're set to do another of our annual check-ins with Lyndon at MDFF and create another of our specials devoted to documentary film festivals. Now, back in March, when kind of looking ahead at the year's podcast scheduling, I actually wondered if MDFF was even going to happen. I'm happy to say that at the time of this episode, MDFF is not only well underway, but that their lineup of films and filmmakers and their list of masterclasses may well be their most impressive yet. They, like a number of others, are doing what others have now been doing and will continue to do for the foreseeable future, which is that they've pivoted from the traditional film fest model and are now embracing something entirely new and foreign and pretty unique. They're either taking their entire festival programming online or some kind of hybrid of online and future in-person screenings. And the results have started coming in. Festivals and programmers and filmmakers and online audience members have been talking about their experiences with this new version of the Documentary Film Festival. And of course, naturally, we felt that this would be the perfect time to bring something new and fresh to the table as well. So we decided to do our annual check-in with Lyndon, and this time focus our attention on the online or virtual film festival experience. And after I spoke with Lyndon, I brought in another documentary filmmaker, Melody Gilbert, who recently had her new feature documentary play online at the new version of the Minneapolis-St. Paul Film Festival. And she shares some of the first experiences I've heard from the documentary filmmaker's perspective of deciding to play their film at the newer digital version of the film festival. All right, Doc Lifers, so welcome to our annual discussion on the Documentary Film Festival. We'll be back with my check-in with Lyndon, followed by our conversation with Melody. And as you know, it's all coming up next here on The Documentary Life. Hey Doc Lifer, as you probably know, we've been running a rate and review promo that started last month. If you were to leave a rate and review at iTunes, emailed me a screenshot of the rate and review, you qualified to be in a drawing for a free 30-minute documentary filmmaking consultation with yours truly. And the response was so good, we wanted to give another one away for the month of July. So, if you don't remember the deal, we're asking you to give a rating and review of the podcast by going to iTunes, hopefully giving us 5 stars and writing a sentence on what you like about the show. This helps us with the iTunes algorithm and gets the podcast out to more people like yourself who can benefit from it. So basically, if you feel that you've gotten something from the show, we'd love you to pay it forward to new listeners, and of course, it does help us as well. And if you do this in the month of July, you'll be eligible for the free 30-minute documentary filmmakers consultation with me. Again, all you have to do is take a screenshot of your rating and review and email it to me at chris@barongfilms.com, which is chris@barangfilms.com, and you'll be automatically entered into that drawing. Thanks in advance, and I look forward to reading your review and possibly hearing about your documentary project and how I might best be able to help you. I'm happy to welcome back Lyndon Stone of the Melbourne Documentary Film Festival, often referred to simply as MDFF. We've had Lyndon on for a few years running now, and Lyndon, welcome back to the show. We're excited to check in with you.
Hi, Chris. How you doing?
Yeah, you know what? Doing pretty well, hanging in there during this, I guess, uncertain times. How are you doing?
Yeah, it's very uncertain times and very challenging times too for the film sector. So I guess we'll talk a little bit about virtual film festivals and going online and cinemas and all that. Extremely challenging time and a difficult time for the industry.
Yeah, I guess a great way to start out, Lyndon, is I'd ask you, this year for the festival, at what point did you fully grasp that there might be no MDFF, or certainly there might not be an MDFF in this traditional film festival way that we're used to?
Well, kind of like, COVID, you're not going to be the boss of me, kind of like I can go in the cinema. I didn't really fully grasp the kind of extent of it till probably around March, like when it really hit. We're still planning for the cinema screenings, but until March, when it really, a lot of people got very, very sick, and just the magnitude of it, just like we just can't do this. You can't be a maverick with people's health. You can't just go in there and we want to keep people safe. We want to have a fun event. As part of me wanted me just to COVID, you're not the boss of me. Go in there, hit it out of the park, sell a lot of sessions. But I can't do that with people's health. We've got all these wonderful filmmakers, their families, Victorians. So I approached the city of Melbourne and said, look, I want to take the festival online for people's safety. They said, we concur with you. So they gave me some sponsorship to help me to take the festival online. So we're in this new exciting world of virtual film festivals. Part of me feels a bit bad because I'm not going to the cinema, and I think I'd really like to help bring business back to Melbourne, bring business back to Carlton, but the borders closed. Cinemas are capped now. They've gone back down to 20 now in Australia because of a rise in COVID.
Yeah.
So we made the right choice. It was a difficult decision, right choice. I feel a little bit bad for the cinemas that for going online, but I had little choice. There's a lot of peer pressure. Melbourne International Film Festival's gone online. St Kilda Film Festival's gone online. Virtually all the film festivals in Australia have gone online. So I had little choice. But the thing is, I wanted to go online because the main emphasis is people's safety. That's why we're going online. I also like the innovation side of it. That's about health and safety.
Yeah, and we'll definitely get into the innovation aspects of it. I mean, did you consider canceling the festival outright? Like, did that come across your mind?
What I want to do is try to keep my commitment to filmmakers by doing one screening online and one in a cinema, and that's what I'm trying to work towards, these two goals. Like an advanced preview in July, and then cinema screenings in July. So. And the filmmakers have been so kind, so understanding. Like, they understand, this isn't business as usual. The borders closed. Cinemas are reduced to about 20 now per cinema. So they understand, they're supportive and they're kind, and they're really embracing the festival with gutso, and I really appreciate that. So because of our size, we weren't in a position to cancel it. So what I've done is, our decision is to postpone it.
Yeah.
So we are going to go and do an advanced preview. We're aiming to screen in December. If we can't do December, I'm going to keep deferring it every 4 to 6 months until we can safely screen in a cinema.
I see.
And I'm trying to do this kind of hybrid model where we're going online, and then it's just for this year, online and then into the cinema.
Yeah. Part of the big draw of these festivals, right, is this opportunity to meet the doc filmmakers of these new films, to go to networking events, to go to the after-hour parties and so forth. And so how are you getting around that? How are you compensating for that in this case, doing it virtually?
Yeah, sure. As I say, because you're helping us with a networking, like a masterclass. So we've got quite a few filmmakers that are going to be actually attending that. So with Zoom and technology, we can still do things virtually, and we can still have those connections on their time, on their terms, which is great. So we can still do these kind of things, but we're relying a lot on email, Zoom, these kind of things to do that, and also working towards actual physical screening. So we've been sending out a help kit to filmmakers. So we're giving them a list of, like, for the feature filmmakers, list of distributors, list of in Australia, video on demand services, list of other cinemas regionally in Australia, regional cinema festivals that we recommend, international festivals we recommend. So we're trying to overcompensate for the fact that it's not a physical brick and mortar. We're deferring to using technology, Zoom, to kind of compensate and fill that gap at the moment. Yeah.
You talked about, the excitement about dealing with something brand new and the technology aspects of it. So I'd like if we could touch a bit on that. Like, what is something that one can experience, say, with the virtual aspects of a film fest that you might not get with the in-person version?
Well, I guess it's just this kind of fest I've designed is more skewed towards the consumer.
Yeah.
So many of the films will have an introduction from the filmmaker, but it's not the traditional Q&A. I'm saving the Q&A for in-cinema screenings, but we're having introductions up to about 5 minutes before each film. Now, with consulting some of the people that run these virtual cinemas, they said that, introductions are a little bit more popular than the Q&A. So Q&As via virtual cinemas aren't as popular as an introduction. So what we're trying to do is allow people to go and watch the film on their term, on their time. So we open up the streams. It's going to be 8 o'clock in the morning on the 30th of June.
Okay.
And we're going to turn the streams off on the 15th of July at 8 p.m. So any time during that, you can pop in, you can watch as much as you want. We've got capped allocation. So we have, up to 200, 300, 400 allocations of each documentary.
Okay.
Now, the classification board said, would you like more? They said, would you like to have, 4 times 200, 300, 400 streams? I said, no, I just want to do one online, one in cinema, keep my commitment to the filmmakers. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're just doing just the one, which I think is fine. And it just allows the consumer to, like, it's, if they're a shift worker, I want to watch this documentary, it's on at 8:30. Actually, no, it's not. I can just watch it whenever I want.
Yeah, that's nice.
We're trying to make it more skewed towards the consumer, kind of giving people like that Netflix festival experience, fusing the two of that. It's a different approach to capped allocation. Normally, virtual festivals are still keeping towards that kind of festival model. It's 8:30, you watch the cinema, and then there's a Q&A, those kind of things. So, it's not business as usual. We're trying to innovate. We're trying to do something different, more skewed towards the consumer to see, if that taking the time day out of it will mean that people will be more likely to buy it or to see the film because there's not that constraint. So like, I can't make 8:30. It looks like a good documentary. 8:30 p.m. I've got something else on, So by taking that day and time out of it and just doing capped allocation, and the thing about the capped allocation is it's only deemed as one session, right? So you imagine like a university lecturer pre-recording a lecture, and then the students watch it later on. It's exactly the same concept. It's only one session. It's not 200, 300, 400 sessions. It's just deemed as one session. That's an important ruling from the classification board. So this kind of opens up online festivals in a different way, a different way of doing it. So at the moment, most of the virtual festivals are still keeping to the model, but we're trying this different hybrid model of kind of fusing Netflix with a festival experience to give this kind of, pop-up festival, limited streams, limited time thing to see how that works. So in that aspect, it's kind of innovative, from kind of doing it a different way than conventional festivals. Pre-sales look good, so we'll see how it goes, but it's kind of very innovative. Like we're kind of breaking new ground. Classification board, their act doesn't respond to online festivals, so they have to get legal advice. They've certified, I think, up to 5 festivals. I'm the 5th one that's getting certified. So it's really interesting. Because as I say, the act didn't really respond to online, so they've had to get legal advice about the intention of the act and all that kind of stuff. So we've been working very closely with the classification board to get compliance. We're almost there. I don't foresee any problems.
Wow.
And so it's interesting, but it's a lot of work, a lot of compliance, a lot of work to get these things online. It's good.
So from the consumer perspective, the consumer side of things, walk me through how one would participate in this festival. Is it still a similar way in that you buy a festival pass, or are you buying one for each film? How is it working now?
We could do all 3. So basically what we're doing at the moment is we're doing a pre-sale. So pre-sales are up until the 3rd where we activate the streams. So you can do one of a couple of ways to purchase the documentaries in the festival. So first off, it's $8 a stream. So we don't call them tickets, we call them streams. Okay. So it's $8 a stream to watch a short session, a feature session. That's a going price. So we looked at some research. They said about $8 is what consumers want to pay for a film. So that's what we rated it to. But if you really like documentaries, you can do a pick 5, a pick 10, or a binge watch, and you can watch the whole festival. Now, the other thing is a lot of people said, oh, this festival looks awesome. Can I watch it? It's geo-blocked to Australia. So we're going, across Australia to 30 million Australians, but, people internationally can't watch the festival, which is a shame.
Okay.
But we're geo-blocked to Australia. So, that's the other thing that the classification board liked. This is our own idea. We wanted to kind of make it as if, what we're trying to do is protect the filmmakers. They've worked all this time on their documentary. So what we're trying to do is put it behind a paywall. I'll just touch on a little bit about We Are One Film Festival, about, Tribeca and Berlin and Sydney Film Festival. They took their festival online, I think, via YouTube for free. Now, for a documentary filmmaker, most filmmakers are like, I just want as many people to see my film as possible. And I think for them, Tribeca, Sydney, the We Are One Film Festival is perfect. I mean, that's their intention. They want as many people to see the documentary as possible. There's another school of thought, Chris, where filmmakers are like, look, I've worked 10, 15 years on this film. I want to sell the film to a distributor. I want to put it on video on demand. I want to compete in other film festivals. I don't want everyone in the world to see my film, So for short filmmakers, I think, the We Are One or some of the feature filmmakers, I mean, if you sign off on it, it's the onus is on you. It's not on the festival. They've told you the terms and conditions. So I think they do a good job. But there's a lot of filmmakers that are like, I mean, let's talk about you, Chris, and Elvis in Cambodia. If Tribeca said to you, look, we're going to play your film, Chris, it's going to be online for free, how would you feel about it? If I play festival director, you pay filmmaker, how would you feel about it?
That's a great question. I'm probably going to do it, Lyndon, but I would have to really think about it long and hard because as you mentioned earlier, some filmmakers are working 10, 15 years on this film, often from their own pockets. That is the case with Steph and I. We are deep into year 6 or 7 now. I've forgotten at this point.
Exactly.
And the majority of the financing has come from both Steph and I. And the thought, on one hand, you want the film seen by as many people as possible. But on the other hand, you know, you'd like to see some kind of financial return on this. And I wouldn't begrudge anyone for that, right?
No, exactly. And that's my emphasis. So what I'm doing is I'm putting it behind a paywall, even the shorts, and it's paying off, Chris.
Yeah.
Al Jazeera's bought some of the films. Guardian's bought some of the films. ABC's bought some of the films. So by making that a commodity, by putting it behind a wall, making it valuable, capping the streams, it gives people options and makes it valuable. And so people have been, you know, distributors have been biting, other festivals have been biting, which is good for the filmmaker. So I'm trying to protect the filmmaker by putting it online. I'm not going to throw the other film festivals that go on free on YouTube under the bus.
Right.
I'm just saying that I'm trying to protect the filmmakers. You know, I'm trying to give them other opportunities to compete at other festivals, return to cinema. We want to go back to the cinema. We're trying to help with that. Distributors, you know, broadcasters, you know, media outlets, so they can sell their documents. So I'm trying to protect the filmmaker. It's also very skewed towards the filmmaker, although we're not doing Q&A. Yeah.
You know, I really appreciate that, Lyndon, and I know, you know, our audience will very much appreciate that. But more than that, what you're saying falls right in line with what you've been saying since the first day that we've had you on the program, which is I've always had the impression from you, Lyndon, and from MDFF that you're very much about the doc filmmaker. And not that other festivals aren't, but there definitely is something different in the way that you approach that, in the way that you make the doc filmmaker a very, very important part of this whole process.
I truly believe it's camaraderie, Chris. Like it's, you know, I think sometimes, I know competitive festivals, you get it in the neck for it. They can be very exploitative of the filmmaker, you know.
Right.
I care very much about the filmmakers. Some filmmakers I meet have mortgaged their house making their documentary, you know, and then sometimes they're there selling paraphernalia for their film, a T-shirt, a cap. You know, I feel bad that, you know, some filmmakers I didn't ask people to mortgage their house to make a film, but I think it's hard sometimes not to feel for filmmakers. And, you know, some of the opportunities in Australia have gone, you know. I'm not saying that there's not opportunities there. There's crowdfunding, you know, Screen Australia, Film Victoria, AIDC, Documentary Australia Foundation, Australia Culture Fund. There's a lot in Australia Council. There's a lot of opportunities out there, and they do a lot of good work. But there's also a lot of filmmakers that are just kind of doing it themselves, indie people, you know, and I feel, you know, I have a lot of empathy for them, you know, and I want to help get interest in their film, you know, help them get some awards, get some distribution. You know, I really want to have a relationship of camaraderie, not one of exploitation, one of where we're working together to help each other. Just look at the reviews. People can see, people know, you know, they know that we do care and we do want to help. It's a hobby. We love documentary. We do want to help people out, you know? Yeah.
Talk a little bit about the master classes that you guys are offering and how you're running that.
Okay, so what we do, we've got 4 master classes at the moment. So we've got one on Introduction to Virtual Reality. So we're hoping to return to the cinema in December. We're doing like a pop-up virtual reality cinema. So we've got Mike Lyons from the Virtual Reality. He's going to kick it off with an Introduction to Virtual Reality. So what we're trying to do is to upskill particularly short filmmakers into virtual reality. So he's going to help tell you about all the kind of, you know, things that you need, all the materials you need, and all the kind of, concepts and stuff like that with virtual reality. And then I believe we have got Melody Gilbert. She's lovely. I've been talking to her for quite some time since the festival began. She's a lecturer out of the United States. Yeah. And she's going to do 12 tips for indie documentary filmmakers. Again, trying to empower filmmakers to, you know, look at different ways and to be successful and stuff like that. We've got yourself as well doing doc entrepreneurship and talk about, you know, your experience doing the documentary life. And then we'll also have Camilla looking at investigative journalism and Black Lives Matters. Yeah. So some exciting and eclectic, you know, masterclasses. So yeah, I think that's going to be good.
Fantastic. Well, Lyndon, as always, I appreciate the conversation, and I always look forward to speaking with you. And I know that these are difficult times, and you obviously have found some amazing ways to make this continue to work. And I know that doc filmmakers and myself very much appreciate what you're doing. Yeah. And I look forward to discovering and seeing more how this hybrid process works out for you guys.
It's absolutely fascinating. It's a lot of hard work. I just want to say, thanks for your help and support, Chris. And we're just trying to do something fun for Melbourne. So it's been through a really rough time, and I'm trying to keep our promises to filmmakers and to do something online. And I want to thank them for allowing us to do that. But it's a difficult and challenging time, and we're rising to the occasion, and we're trying to keep people safe and also innovate. But it's mainly about safety. Yeah.
Very well, Lyndon. It's wonderful talking with you. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Melody Gilbert is a documentary filmmaker and passionate film educator. As an award-winning director, producer, cinematographer, and editor who has directed 8 feature-length films, her work has screened at major festivals and been distributed internationally and on VOD. The films she directs are noteworthy for featuring a rare intimacy with her subjects as she unearths previously hidden worlds. She works mostly solo as a one-woman crew and has the ability to get people to reveal their innermost thoughts. Her work has been supported by the Jerome Foundation, Minnesota State Arts Board, and a McKnight Foundation Filmmaker Fellowship. Prior to independent documentary filmmaking, Melody was an award-winning broadcast journalist specializing in investigative reporting. She has also been a freelance producer for NBC, CBS, and ABC News. First and foremost, Melody Gilbert, welcome to the Documentary Life.
And thank you for having me. I'm a fan of your show, so I appreciate being
here. That's wonderful. I'm glad to hear that, and I appreciate that very much. Melody, we obviously could have a much fuller discussion with you and your documentary background, but as I had said to you, before we came on, a big part of our discussion is really going to focus on film festivals, and really in particular what's happening now with this sort of pivot to virtual or online film festivals. And I know that you have recently had a film that has shown in Minneapolis at a film festival that did go the online route. So just before we get to that, Melody, I'd love to hear what your general experience with film festivals has been like leading up to this year.
Oh, well, I think I was like a lot of independent documentary filmmakers, making a film and going on the film festival circuit and looking for distribution and making connections. I mean, that's what we all did. It was like, I looked forward to that, making the rounds. That's what we do, make films and then make the rounds with our films. And I have been, I think, fairly successful at getting my films distributed. And that's all part of being out in the world at those places, markets, Film Week, IDFA, all these places. So that's important. And I was really, really concerned when, COVID came to our world that I would not, what would happen? Like, how would we be able to do this? And I think we were all just like zombies for a while, like, what's going to happen? And how will we get our film seen? And I actually have 2 new films now. So I'm like, what do I do now? I have a feature and a short. What do I do? So I think that was a question a lot of us were asking ourselves.
Yeah, I'll bet. You specifically had a documentary that was selected for inclusion in the Minneapolis St. Paul Film Festival this year. It was scheduled to run in April.
Yeah.
They had to pivot to an online festival, didn't they?
Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
So I was just to say they were one of the first. I know it was Copenhagen, CPH went first, and then I think Cleveland, where the short that I had was premiering online. And I mean, a short, it doesn't have the same meaning. It's your feature, it's your premiere, it's a baby. You want to make sure that it's the right thing. And so they pivoted pretty quickly, but it still wasn't until May that the festival said they were going to go online. And I had to make that decision. What do I do?
Well, let's talk about the longer documentary that showed, or that was to show at Minneapolis St. Paul Film Festival. Mm-hmm. Tell me what your initial thoughts about this was when they contacted you and say, hey, look, we're still going to run the festival, but it's going to be slightly different this year. What were your initial thoughts? And then talk about some of your hesitations.
Okay, so the film was called Stories I Didn't Know, and it was a 5-year project, between 3 and 5 years. You know how this goes, and and they said, well, we can go online, and we're not asking all of the films to do that. but just sort of some select ones that they think they would probably have some success with. And I think the festival itself was maybe cut in half to what it would normally be. So you thought, okay, maybe it's going to get more attention, but who's going to go online to watch these films?
Yeah.
Who is going to pay for them when everybody right at that time was giving away their products for free? I mean, I had put my films up online saying, okay, everybody, you're home and you're in lockdown. Here are some of my old films for free. We're all watching all these free films. Who's going to go online?
Oh, yeah.
So we, my co-director, Rita Davern, and I, and she's a first-time filmmaker. And so I worked with her, we discussed it, and I think she was actually fairly hesitant to do it. And I said, you know what? Here was the pivot for me.
Yeah. What swung your decision?
Yeah, it's going to be a very long time until we're going to be back in a physical space. And when we really, I think at that time, even we were thinking maybe in 6 months we'll be back in a physical space. Should we hold it? Will it be better for distribution if we hold it and all those things? But let's just try it. Like, why not? It can't hurt. It was mostly a crowd-funded film. It didn't have broadcast distribution like a lot of films that are sort of talking about this now. We wanted to gauge reaction. We wanted to see, if we could get some reviews. And I thought, well, this is the right way to do it. Let's see if it works. And that was sort of what we kind of shifted gears, maybe I think over 24 hours from no way to why not? And it worked out pretty well, which I'll explain in a minute. Yeah,
I mean, let's just get right into that. What worked for you? What didn't? And then maybe what surprised you the most? Okay, so what worked is that it turned out to be an amazing experience. I mean, it's such a surprise. First of all, we were the first film to sell out, and that was 250 tickets. So the first film to sell out online. Then they asked us, would you like more tickets to be allowed? Because, you're talking about the geo restrictions and time windows. New terms that we have to get used to now. Yeah, exactly. And so, we moved forward. I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but it was a success. We had so many people, we sold out twice. And we had an amazing Zoom Q&A right after our premiere screening. And I think the most important thing I learned from all of this is to treat this as if it really is a premiere. We did the exact same thing as it's a premiere. We got time windowed. I said, I want it on a Sunday at 5:00 when I thought most people would be home. And we scheduled it for that. And that's how we did our promotion. We're like, come join us as if you were coming to a festival. Yeah. And I just can't believe we had hundreds of people at the screening. We had hundreds of people at the Q&A afterwards. I mean, it was such, to answer your question about a surprise, it was such a surprise that it had all those same feelings, right? Yeah. Like the kind of nervousness that happens before, the anticipation, the excitement, the build up, the PR, the actual screening during the time was like, oh my God, I wonder how people are responding. And then right afterwards, we had a Q&A as if we were doing a real Q&A with all these people from everywhere. And actually, another surprise is that Q&A lasted much longer than a regular Q&A. That's what I read. Yeah. Incredible. And it was, because I wrote that article about it, and it was so much fun. An hour, and people still wanted to keep talking. So all those things were really joyful and surprising for us. And then the second part of that, of course, is the reaction that we got, because you never know. And, we were, even up to the very last day, we were #1 in audience award voting. We got all of these amazing comments from people. We were asked to be on, podcast and radio. And, it was exactly what we wanted. So it worked for us. I don't say online film festivals or virtual festivals are for everyone. Yeah. But for sure it worked for us for this film. So I think that's one of the questions people have to ask themselves. You know what I'm really curious to know is this, you did say this was done via a Zoom format, correct? The Q&A? The Q&A afterwards was. So I'm curious, Melody, were you actually able to see people's faces? Could you see individuals' faces? No. That were trained? Okay. And that seems like the next logical step in a way. Yes, and I hope that does happen in the future. There were too many people there to control it, and I feel like most of the festivals and even the workshops that a lot of us have been probably going to over the last couple of months, they tend to be more the speakers, and then everyone else is like down in the thing that says that how many people are there. And things. Kind of
guess who's there. But, people are chatting also sometimes on the side, so that helps. But in this particular Q&A, there was no chat. I think in the future Q&As, I suggested it would be good to have chat so we could have questions from the audience that way. But people were emailing in questions somehow. So anyway,
Amazing.
It was a delight. And the programmer, Craig Rice, was a fabulous moderator. I mean, that's a big part of it too, having good moderator.
Yeah, of course.
And it just was such a joyful experience for us. And we're still kind of riding high. And it was, over a month ago at this point, and we just enjoyed every step of the way.
So Melody, you did say that this wouldn't it worked really well for you guys and you had a wonderful experience. I'm curious, Melody, who might what documentary filmmaker might this not work for?
Well, I think people who were going to premiere at, South by or Tribeca, some of these very large festivals that maybe were really counting on those festivals as a place to be discovered. Yeah. Whether they're a filmmaker with a film, hoping like, oh my God, I finally got into Tribeca or South by, this is my big chance. Yeah. Maybe it isn't right for them to do it. I know the other part of that is that there are a lot of people who want really still, even now, are holding on to, I just can't do it because I want that film festival experience. And I want that. But yet most of those people, and I'll be honest, and there a lot of them are my friends, they already have distribution. They'll already be on HBO. They'll already be, right? I mean, they're already going to be on PBS. They're already got their VOD all figured out. The festivals for them was that fun part where they got to get feedback and connect with their friends and audience members and family, and all that stuff is just wonderful. But when you put that aside and say, you know what, we can hardly have a backyard barbecue right now, and it's not going to happen, then move on and say, gosh, you know what, you're lucky that you have HBO. We don't have HBO. The good thing for me is that I can take all of the things that I discovered from being in this online film festival. I get a sense of what this film is. I mean, I've made a lot of films. So I'm getting a feeling for, just from being in this one festival so far, where it stands. Like everyone's saying, wow, this would probably be great for PBS. And you know what? I agree. And maybe normally I would have done this differently, like contact people in advance, or maybe I'd have a meeting somewhere, at Film Week, like, are you interested in this film or not? But now it can just have a different way to maybe PBS or maybe to educational distribution, whatever it might be, because it's a film, about family and history and, land and land theft. And also that's another thing that we've learned a lot about, which is that this is a very timely film because of what's going on in the world. So it's all these things that we're talking about right now about history and whose history is whose history and how do we deal with these things. And her journey is what is so interesting, because I think a lot of people relate to that. And that's what I got from being in the online film festival.
That's what you got from that. Well, it's interesting, you also mentioned that some people might be hanging on to their understanding, hanging on to their films with premiering it and trying to kind of wait this out. And, it's like you said at the outset, who knows when this is going to, resolve itself, and who knows when you're going to be back in theaters to be able to see your film on the screen. And in fact, last week, Doc NYC released their statement and released their plans for their festival, and they're primarily going online and virtual with their festival, and that's in November. So they're jumping ahead of the game and saying,
hey, at least a year.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I gotta say, the thing that's really positive about all this that has happened is that we now know that going online and doing virtual film festivals reaches different audiences than would normally come to film festivals. Yeah. And that is also a huge positive.
Oh, I mean,
we found out somehow with the data and all of that there were so many people that had never been to a film festival before, and certainly had never been to MSPIFF before, but tuned in to this festival and watched something and paid money to watch it because of the subject matter, or because of the filmmakers or whatever it might be. But that's a whole new way of reaching an audience that you never did before. So Doc NYC and these other festivals that are going forward now, well, they will certainly see that this is, like, I think hybrid will be kind of the buzz of the future.
I think so too. I think so.
Why not? it makes perfect sense because we've now learned how to do this. We know how. You know, when MSPIFF was first, Minneapolis St. Paul was first approached me, but they didn't even have like a platform to do it yet. And they were searching for one, and they talked to Cleveland, and and then they did it, and they did an amazing job. And also they were great partners because they supported us in PR. They supported us financially. They gave
that's
screening fees. I don't even get screening fees for most of the film festivals that I go to. I mean, I try, but you know, in general, that's not given to the independent filmmaker without distribution. We don't get screening fees. So I got a screening fee. We got additional box office split. After what happened afterwards was they offered us a weekend in the theater. And we also got to make that. So it's this crazy stuff now that's going on that's really beneficial for, I think, just you have to think about your goals. You have to think about what's right for you. And those people are holding on. Well, good luck. I mean, the people I feel the worst for are the emerging filmmakers who this was their moment to shine. But
100%.
You know, I honestly feel for them. And I think a lot of us who are sort of, you know, have more experience in this world, in the doc world, will probably get together somehow and find a way to help them and lift them up and maybe have something to, you know, do online networking and connecting somehow, because they are the ones I feel the worst for. Because I know that feeling of going and being discovered and having your film seen and validated after all that work. So I do feel worse for them, but the ones who already had the distribution, I don't feel so bad for.
We had Jian Jenny Shi on the program right just before, you know, for Finding Ying-Ying's her film, and that was her director debut. You know, that's her first documentary film, and it was set to premiere at South by, and you know, we talked to her just after that had been canceled, and that's a prime example, right, of an emerging filmmaker who. You know.
Yes, and I know her, and I know Brent, and I know.
We had Brent on the show.
Yeah, and there, you know, that's a perfect example. And I think the teacher in me, of course, feels horrible, you know, for her and Medill, and that was such a great, wonderful thing to have happened. But I also think that we're all do things the best we can to guide her, help her, and you know, they're connected to Cartemplin now. You know, things are coming from it, but I think that is the hardest thing. And other than that, I can't see any negative from this except for one thing, which is
the parties.
That too. The things we're missing. I'm talking about the distribution, that I think that there are still some sort of old time distributors that are holding on to the idea of, oh, you've already shown your film online? Well, we can't, you know, we can't show it now. Or even festivals. But I think people are going to come around to that.
I do too.
It was geo-restricted to Minnesota, so no one else saw it outside of Minnesota. So your festival can have it, or you as a distributor, you know, if you're not interested right now, well, that's on you. I mean, I think I have a film that will sell and people will watch, and I have proof of that now. I didn't know that before.
Well, that's just it, right? You have proof now of the people that want to see this film, which is wonderful, right? And it's hard for me to believe that during this time, when so much consumption of TV and films are happening, that there's not going to be a need for our films, regardless if it's shown at the festival or not. Come on, right?
Yeah, and I think, you know, the value for us is, while everybody else, or not everybody, a lot of people were sitting around waiting and wondering, is this going to work? We found an audience in that time where it could have been big. 6 months or a year from now. And poor Rita, first time filmmaker, she was like, no, I want to wait. I'm like, no, you don't.
And I get it.
You know, I understand. We all understand that. But now she's thrilled that we did it this way. So, and it also helps with, we are now looking to create an educational guide, which we didn't have. And now she can go and get funding for something like that to help, because now we know that people are responding. I mean, it's a really, you know, I really can hardly see a negative of it. The only thing I will say is that was for a feature, and it was time windowed. Again, meaning that we had a premiere time and date. That was very important. It wasn't like put it up and it's up for the whole festival. We had a time window premiere time and day, and then it was available for the rest of the week. But we didn't tell anybody that at first. We just here's the
come
premiere.
see the premiere.
Just like anything else. And then it was available so people could continue to watch and vote and all those things. But I will say that the success of the short that was also the one that was in Cleveland called Viewfinder, and it's about a guy who takes a picture a day for every day for 23 years on a film camera. And that was premiered at Cleveland. And I got some feedback from Cleveland, some people who contacted me directly and tweeted about it and some things like that, which was very nice. But it kind of got lost in the shuffle, I think, at MSPIFF. I feel like the shorts got lost in the shuffle there, but they did great. Well, I mean, they had them, so I don't really know. That was my personal experience. I got virtually no feedback from anybody directly about the short, but the feature, my goodness. So I think if you have a feature and you can get sort of these specific time window geo-blocked, you know, and even work on, I mean, the Minneapolis St. Paul International Film Society was gracious to offer screening fees and share box office and all kinds of stuff. And I think you just have to work with the programmers, with those festivals, and have it be like, oh, it was one of a few films that were really highlighted and pushed by the PR people there.
Right.
You know, it had a Minnesota subject. It's a universal subject, but it was a Minnesota subject, so that helped, you know, all those kind of things. So I don't really see any negative at all right now. I really don't.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
Melody, it's been a pleasure speaking with you, and I'm so happy to have gotten this insight on sort of somebody, a filmmaker who's had their film shown at a virtual film festival. And thank you so much for doing it. But here's the thing, Melody. I would love to have you on the program in a future date so we can have a lengthier discussion. I would, if you would do that, that would be fantastic.
I'd be thrilled to be back. I like I said, I'm a fan of the show, so bring me back.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today on the show.
All right, thank you.
Now, don't forget, if you enjoy the podcast and you'd like the opportunity to win a free 30-minute doc film consultation with me, head on over to iTunes and write us a rate and review. Email me a screenshot of the rate and review to my email, chris@barangfilms.com. Again, that's chris@barangfilms.com. Thanks again. We'll see you next episode. Thanks again for listening to the show, and remember to like and subscribe to this channel. Also, remember, for any of the URLs that may or may not be outdated and you want to get the most up-to-date information, perhaps for the documentary filmmaking courses, for the blog, for other episodes, just go ahead and check in the show notes below on this YouTube page, and that'll give you the correct URLs to use. Thanks again. Have a great day.